Welcome back, everybody. Where I'm going to use this desk here probably in about 4 to 5 hours as a boat because it is raining a significant amount.
I wasn't sure you were going to say there as an operating table, as a.
I'm going to build an ark out of these planks because it's supposed to get, they're no joke, 4 to 6 inches of rain now between what started like 4 hours ago until like 24 hours from now.
I mean,
And
as of this recording, it's over 60 degrees and it's going to be 72 today. It's going to be like beautiful and
you're going
sunny.
to have, and then you're going to get the rains.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's okay. We don't have a flooding problem here or anything. So.
Yeah, so this is going to be it's going to be interesting, I think. It's going to be interesting. We actually got dumped on when I was Halloweening trick or
Oh,
treating.
you did, yeah.
Yeah, we got the important photos out of the way, and then about 20, 30 minutes after we got down the street, it just dumped. And so my daughter was a flamingo. I should have posted this picture. And then my wife, very smart, brought a poncho.
Sure.
Actually, Paul, before that, so she got her all dressed up, and we were taking a photo. I'm like, oh, that's a great little bag. It matches. It's a flamingo bag. And she looked at me, and she goes, remember when we were at SeaWorld and you guys were pissed that I stood in line for so long?
That's the bag.
That's the bag.
I mean, in our defense, it was 111 degrees out, and
Yes.
you know, but
Anyway, so it starts.
actually, I believe this was the moment I turned to you and I said, "How do you have any money?"
Yep.
Because your daughter and your wife would like kind of just U-turn into like every store on the side, you know.
Yep. And they're very good at just the like $3-4 purchases very consistently.
Yeah.
But so it started to dump, and my wife had a clear poncho for my daughter. It was great until she started to get a little wet, and then she kind of looked like one of those pieces of trash that's floating around in the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. The
Oh,
flamingo
boy.
was.
I haven't seen a rainy Halloween, I don't think, in forever. The bigger problem has always been that it gets really cold,
Yeah.
and then
Yep.
the kids have to throw on like winter clothes, which nobody wants because you want to wear your costume, you know.
Yep. But it dumped. It dumped. And speaking of dumping, did you hear what these guys did today, Paul?
I did not.
They delayed Google Assistant
Ooh.
until 2019.
Ooh. Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
The opposite of trick or treat.
I never wrote this editorial, but I probably still have it in my to-do folder, actually, because that's how I do things. But some months ago, based on some news from Sonos, I started an article that I think is called "The Problem with Amazon," and their licensing agreement with Sonos and any other third-party partner for their smart assistant is kind of prickly. Like they can pull out of that at any time, and you know, the introduction of, say, like Google Assistant on Sonos, you know, like they could arguably just say, look, we don't want you to do this. And, you know, Sonos is like, well, I'm sorry, we have to do this. And they're like, all right, then you don't have us anymore. You know,
Yeah.
it's kind of they're kind of tough. I would probably hurt Amazon more to leave that platform.
I think so too. I think Amazon's plays, right, is just wide and distributed rather than exclusivity.
But Sonos is kind of a luxury product, and you could kind of make the argument like, look, we have all these low-end partners, and we'd rather go for volume than quality. You know, I don't know.
Yeah. And so I don't think this has anything to do with that. Of course, we have no idea. They did open up the beta signups, but I mean, that doesn't help.
So did they make this announcement as part of an earnings thing, or how did this come out?
I don't know. They just posted it on their blog that this
All
was
right,
delayed.
I'll write something up. I didn't know this happened.
Yeah, it just happened like an hour ago.
Okay.
So, yeah. Yep, I was on a phone call. Otherwise, I would have written that up because that is, it's very, very sad. I'm going to go console myself over some of my daughter's candy.
I mean, I have speakers in our center room that I love, but the day that Google Assistant arrives on Sonos, things might change here because I really like that equipment a lot. I need to see what that's like, but that's something I think about.
Yeah. And then other things that dropped yesterday, and this one's not all that surprising, and I think it's finally kind of happening, is that Fitbit posted really strong earnings. And
Yeah.
I kind of think here, there was a while where that market was flooded. There was like Fitbit, then there was Jawbone, there were all these other companies. There
Yep.
was, what was the other one that was a Kickstarter that got sold and bought by
Garmin
Fitbit?
is part of that, and
There were-
there's a lot of little ones like little tiny ones like Misfit and there's probably dozens of these things.
And I think the market not collapsed, but condensed, and it's kind of, you've got Apple on that one end, and Apple will always sell well to a certain demographic, to people who have iPhones and all that. And I think Fitbit is just doing an excellent job of just basically collecting everyone else. And I think that we're starting to see that that's the market, is you either buy an Apple Watch or you can go to Fitbit.
Yeah. The mix of products that Fitbit sells has just shifted. So they're 50-50 now, roughly, for smartphones, smartwatches rather, and traditional fitness trackers. The device I just bought, which you can kind of see here, is kind of a hybrid, right? Because it's bigger than their traditional trackers and not quite as big as a smartwatch. And it doesn't have a color screen. It doesn't really have apps per se, but it does kind of a halfway between set of functionality. I only bought it because it does a couple of additional. It has waterproofing, so I could swim with it, and it does do heartbeat tracking, and it has enhanced sleep tracking, which is super important to me because I sleep horribly. But the big success story over there, and this is something I really considered buying, and I kind of went back and forth on, is the smartwatch, the Versa, and that device costs $199. And an Apple Watch starts at $399, so it's half the price essentially, and it works everywhere. It doesn't require to have an iPhone, so you can kind of see the appeal.
Yeah, and there's also Garmin out there. I shouldn't discount them, but Garmin tends to appeal, I think, more to those real hardcore runners.
Yeah,
people,
the Tims.
Yeah, the Tims, our developer, the people that are riding bikes and doing all that stuff. And so I don't know how big Fitbit will get, but it definitely seems like their business is sustainable at this point, now that the market isn't so kind of crazy.
It's funny. Fitbit and Spotify both announced earnings this past day, and I view them as very similar companies. They're super successful. There are serious concerns about the business model. And it's kind of strange because they basically do one thing. I mean, I realize smartwatch wearable is kind of two things, but let's call them health-based wearables. Is what they are, trackers. I hope this market is sustainable, just like I hope the market for a music service that actually pays artists is sustainable. We need this, right? We need both of these things to be successful. So, and actually, it's interesting both of them compete with Apple. In what for Apple are kind of tertiary markets in a way, or secondary, But yeah. Anyway, both of these companies are kind of interesting to me.
Yeah, the interesting thing about Spotify is that they clearly have the reoccurring revenue, which is typically what everybody wants, but they also have significant downward pressure to keep those prices low, but they also have to pay artists and all those people, and so they've just got a different set of challenges, but be interesting to watch.
And if you do have a Spotify family account like I do, make sure you go over to the site today and claim your free Google Home Mini. The light gray color is already sold out. So they have coral and charcoal, I think is the other color, whatever the darkish black. But it's a $49 value. You might as well grab it.
Yeah, I wonder how Google's got to be like cutting them a deal or something. Because
I think so. Because actually when you click through, it goes to the Google store. It says it's $49 and you can say buy it. And then you go through the order process, and they do minus 49, and it comes out to $0. So it is coming from Google. Yeah, I bet it's subsidized to some degree.
Got to be. Then other big things, Mixer, not the drink thing, but the streaming service from Microsoft. Actually, I wanted to. We should start a streaming service called Neat, and another one called On the Rocks.
Yes, I like it.
But Paul, they announced a big update today to their streaming platform.
I don't know if you read this announcement. And,
I did not.
And I feel that you, given your age and given your, I don't know, experiences with gaming and so forth, compared to me.
What are you trying to say here, Paul?
Hold on, let me complete the sentence. Are probably more comfortable or probably more used to the stuff they're talking about. But I read this thing. I read their post. And I have never felt more old and out of touch as I did reading this stuff. Let me bring up the language because it's really funny. Like just the terms they use, because Mixer is there's a thing happening in the world, and I have this discussion with my wife and with other normal people that game streaming is going to become like outside the industry people.
Yeah,
is going to be bigger than professional sports. And it's happening. My son's really involved in this, obviously, as a younger person. So first of all, there's a whole language that comes with this. Anyway, in the streaming, I'm sorry, in the streaming world, people sit there and they watch people play video games. And I know some of you are saying like obviously they do, Paul. But others of you are like, really, why would anyone want to do that? Which was kind of my feeling going into this years ago, and now I actually do get it. It's not something I'm ever going to do, he says confidently, but it's not something I do today anyway. But I get it. Like I understand it. So the language here is like, first of all, they're calling like this upgrade to the service season 2, as if it were like a TV show. Mm-hmm. And it's because it's not just like a one-day thing. It's like a season, like something that happens over the year, I guess. But these are the things like, and by the way, you got to remember, these things impact people that are like stars on the platform. In other words, the people playing the games, mm-hmm. and then the people who watch them play the games, because there's an interaction going on. You can throw stuff at them virtually, like little celebratory fireworks when they do something nice. You can give them money. You can, these guys, some of these people make millions of dollars doing this. So they have skills. Okay, skills I kind of get. Skills are a new way to express yourself while you're watching mm-hmm. a stream. You can send stickers and GIFs, launch celebratory effects, like I said, like fireworks and confetti. They have sparks. Sparks are a way to reward your favorite streamers without actually spending money. It's kind of a credit system. So the more you engage with these people, they actually get credit on the system. It turns into real money for them. It's something that happens through the platform. And then there's something coming called Embers. And Embers is literally a microtransaction currency, a virtual currency, that will allow you to actually directly finance people that you watch, which is like, and then there's like this progression system, which kind of makes some sense. But again, you got to remember some both sides of the coin. People who are playing games on Twitch are progressing, like up levels, but so are people who are watching, because you can spend money, you can chat, you can buy and use skills, you can earn applause from others, for doing things that are nice or whatever. So there's a progression system to this. Like, what is this? Like it's like crazy town. But this is the new.
Says the guy who's prestige master in Call of Duty.
Yeah, but you know what? Yes, but I mute everyone on Call of Duty mm-hmm. On my Xbox. Actually, I don't talk to them. I don't interact with them. I undermine people on my own team repeatedly,
and in real life.
Yep. It's it's just like it's a thing for me. Yeah. It's just
I'm
the
aware.
way I am. I got to be me. But but it's a solitary experience, really. Like the reason I like multiplayer over like a single player campaign, which I have liked at certain times, is just it's more competitive, And I play the hardcore version. It's like the hardest version. Like you die really mm-hmm. quickly. It's it's hard to get streaks going and everything. My KD is much lower than I would like, but like it's still like it's just me, like I know I'm playing against people, but I'm not really competing with those people. Like I don't know that someone did something awesome or who they are, or I recognize names from time to time, obviously, because it's the same people, but it's not the same thing. These guys are having in many ways a much healthier relationship with games and with the people who play those games than I do. And if you think about it, but it's just outside. I feel like I kind of came into this in a different space, and I don't know that this transition's possible. I remember my dad when he bought us our first video game, which was mm-hmm. on the television when we were kids. I was so excited, and he really wanted to participate. Like he wanted to play these games. You could see that they were fun, and he just couldn't do it. He just wasn't. He grew up in an era where a stick and a ball was like a big deal, like. No, I'm not kidding. I mean, he grew up in a very poor mm-hmm. environment, they used to play games without all the parts, like it was just the way it was. It was terrible. So this might be my moment of that. I don't know. We'll see. But I just felt really out of touch. I was reading. I had to really go through it and try to understand what they were talking about. I was like, what is this? It's not like quantum computing difficult.
Yeah.
But but just outside of my, sorry.
Yeah. I mean, it's I don't know. It's just a different way to kind of engage with this stuff. And clearly it's a massive market, and it's not getting any smaller anytime soon.
I mean, think about just traditional video game sales, right? There's been a mm-hmm. thing. This has been true of the industry for decades. A game like the new Call of Duty comes out, and I think it was first weekend it was out, it made, but I don't remember the exact number, but $550 million over a weekend. There's no movie in Hollywood that has ever made that much money. the best-selling movies of October, the best opening weekend was $80 million. Now that's October. I mean, I realize in the summer it might be 127 or whatever the numbers might be, but not 550. And then a week or two goes by, and Red Dead Redemption 2 comes out. That thing made over $700 million. That might have been in the first week. I don't remember the exact time frames for these things, but that's humongous. But this stuff, we talk a lot about Fortnite or PUBG or these kind of esports type games, and then this whole streaming phenomenon. People on YouTube or Twitch or Mixer or whatever, these people are making millions of dollars. Some of them, it's big bucks.
So I was curious. So the thing I just Googled was top grossing films of all time. So this is lifetime sales of all stuff.
Yeah, they're $1 billion movies.
Yes, Avatar. To put it in perspective, though, you said Red Dead Redemption did what, 700 million?
It was north of 700 million. It could have been 750. It was somewhere in that.
Yeah. The top grossing film of all time is Avatar at 2.7 billion, which clearly there's a pretty big difference between that amount. But
that's over.
That's over its
re-released
lifetime.
In the theater. Yes,
it's over its lifetime. Yep. And so I'm trying to get down to the point where is it like 700 million? I don't even know if it'll go down that low. Number 32.
Well, like the Halloween movie that just opened, that's been like celebrated for some reason. It's just a slasher flick, right? It's now the second best-selling movie in the Halloween canon. Adjusted for inflation. Only the first movie has made more. The first movie made less than $200 million.
Yeah.
Right. That's a major success story for a horror movie. I don't know. But yeah, obviously, like the big blockbuster movies, the best Marvel movies, the Star Wars movies, the Indiana Jones movies, or Titanic, you're looking for $1 billion. Like $1 billion is the threshold. That's, and it is over the lifetime run of the movie, obviously, not an opening weekend. What you need to look up is like best opening weekends.
Let's try.
Like what's like the single best tally that a movie has ever had, like where a blockbuster movie, depending on what kind of movie it is, could potentially earn more than it costs to make just in the opening weekend, right?
So here we go. Best worldwide opening weekends on record. The best actually occurred this year was Avengers Infinity War at 640 million.
Well, that's actually way more than I thought it was going to be.
But that is the best of the best of the best.
The other thing to remember about movies, because this market has changed a lot. Remember the delta between like an opening of a movie and its release on video would be like a year or two, and then it kind of went down to like a year, and then it was like 6 months, and now it's like just a couple of months. And the reason for that is that, like, if you look at the total gross of that movie is actually kind of an outlier because it was such a huge success. But most movies, that opening weekend is kind of it.
Yeah,
like
sure.
That's the drop off at the end is dramatic. Like in the old days, well, there are examples of movies that did okay in the beginning and then kind of went over time. Like Titanic was like that. Star Wars was like that. They weren't smash successes the first weekend, but then over time it was like word of mouth and it kind of went nuts. But most movies today spike and then they just fall off a cliff. I don't think video games do that at all. On average, I should say.
Yep. So interesting stuff. One other last quick thing here, because it just popped up on Reddit, Mr. Paul. It looks like Google is going to rename Project Fi to Google Fi. Oh.
Not to Android Fi?
Clearly, apparently not. This is according to somebody.
Google Fi.
A pamphlet that came in their Google Pixel. It says, actually, I can probably drag it over here. See if you can't. Oh, man, I'm all washed. Or too dark now, but you can see it.
It has a new logo, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, with googly colors. Yeah, it's funny looking at that picture, especially the Project Fi logo to me looks kind of old-fashioned. The old one.
Oh, the other good news here is that my default Windows 10 wallpaper is back after having changed it multiple times. It's the wallpaper came back the very
The
next
list
day.
of settings that Windows 10 does not respect when you perform even the most minor of upgrades is hilarious. And also hard to quantify. I have one more day until my cycle switches over on Project Fi, because you may recall this was the month I exceeded the 15 gig
Oh, yes, yes.
limit and thus had my connection slowed down. I've kind of dealt with it. I don't, well, I could pay more. I could, say get full speed, and then I pay per gigabyte again, but it's okay. I'm not going anywhere.
You got anything else for today, Mr. Thrat?
I don't want to waste too much time on this today, but as you know, I did make a big purchase today. And there was a lot of navel gazing over this one, let me tell you, because it's not the slam dunk that this product should be. But I think I'm going to write about this today because I'm referring to the MacBook Air, I should say. I'll just say this. I think Apple was kind of in a weird spot because they have a MacBook Air that uses a Y series processor. The MacBook Air historically has used a U series processor, as we call it now, but that's what's in the MacBook Pro. And the MacBook Pro, because Intel's kind of gone to quad core processing now, if they put that in the MacBook Air, it'd be hard to differentiate these things, right? I mean, so I think they were kind of stuck. Not stuck in the same way that Microsoft was stuck with the Pentium when they did Surface Go exactly, but it's kind of similar. Like when you look at where you need to position this in a certain place, it has to be unique from the other things. There has to be, differentiators up and down the chain. And I feel like they didn't. I think this is all they could do.
Yeah. You have to promise me one thing, that you will do a Surface Laptop 2 versus MacBook Air, because that's going to be...
I don't think it's going to be much of a competition. I was just using the Surface Laptop 2 last night, and I was reflecting. In fact, I think I ordered the computer on that computer, which is some kind of blasphemy when you think about it. But for all the complaints about this thing isn't that different from the other one, and it isn't. But the thing that I think you got to keep in focus here is it was already kind of awesome, It's still awesome. Like it's awesome. It's an awesome laptop.
Well, we look forward to whatever you got there. When's it arrive?
Well, that's an interesting story in and of itself. Next Wednesday, on the 7th, which, as you recall, was the date that these orders would start appearing. I didn't order it until this morning, because I've literally gone and priced this thing out again and again and again, and I can't wrap my head around how expensive it is. And I'm trading it. I could have traded in an iPad Pro or a MacBook Air to get somewhere in the $300 range off the price, and I kind of went back and forth on that. And I think it's a little weird that on this morning I was able to order this thing and get it on day one. Well, this is an eagerly anticipated device. And I feel like that price has been a blocker for people, that I'm not alone when I say, super excited to hear they do a new one. Click, click, click. How much is it? It's expensive.
Yeah,
it's more expensive than it should be.
Look real quick here at the iPad to see if it's, what if you hit buy?
Oh, like when you would get it.
Why did that turn off?
Because you're using Miracast? I feel like, did I step through an iPad Pro purchase process?
I just did the basic iPad Pro for $1,000.
Yep.
Add to bag.
Oh, I remember. You know what it was? You could get it right away, and then the Pencil was the thing that was going to be a week or two later.
Yeah. Ships in 7 to 10 business days is all that it says.
Yeah, 7 to 10 is after the 7th. So, yeah, they've already clicked over on that one. That's interesting. If this thing was, well, if this thing was a U series processor, yep, no problem. If this thing was $200 less, yep, okay. It's not either of those things. And so I think the people who knows what people buy Macs, but
yeah,
hopefully they're educated about what's going on. And I suspect, like I said, I'm not alone. I think people kind of click through and go, yep, here we go. what?
Mm-hmm.
That was my reaction.
So today's Thursday, right?
Yes, it is.
All right, folks. So that wraps it up for Thursday. Well, hey, look, it's reconnecting. It's reconnecting
Hooray.
back there. But which means that we are going to do a live show tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. You can find that information at throughout.com/live. And if Miracast holds strong and doesn't flake in and out, we'll have a proper background. But have yourselves a wonderful Thursday, and we'll catch you right back here next time.